Hey, today I want to walk you through a guide to creating clean IK limbs in Maya. So first, I'm just going to take a look at this legs rig. So in this one, the only limb that I'm going to be doing this with is these legs, right? So first, let's go to a side view and just add some joints. And I want to figure out where the knee is actually going to be. So I'm going to just keep wireframe unshaded so I can see these lines. Looks like the knee is going to be about where this divot is. It'll be about halfway down the leg. So go to the rigging tab here, skeleton, create joints, and top of the leg is going to be somewhere here. The knee somewhere around there. And the ankle, it's gonna swivel from about there. An important thing about creating joints for an IK limb is that you want there to be a bend. You don't want this to be a perfectly straight line. So if you snapped it, for example, like, hit enter to finish that. Say you snapped it like this and it was going straight down the line. When you set up your IK handle, it's not going to know which direction to bend it, and it can break the calculations. So that we can see the joints better, I'm just going to raise the radius up a little bit. Okay. All right, so there's my joints. Now I want to orient them. So let's go to skeleton, orient joint options. And, well, before we orient them, sorry, I'm going to place the joint in the rig. So X-ray joints. And let's just go to the front view. And place it right there. Center of the leg where it's going to rotate from. And I think in this case, I'm going to rotate the leg because you don't want to have any extra rotations on these joints. You want it to be straight from the front, but bent from the side, if that makes sense. So that we have a bend and it knows that this is the direction it's going to bend. But from this direction, we want this to actually be a straight line if we can, so that we don't have extra rotation values. So let's see, I'm going to reorient this so that Y is forward, X is going down the bone, and Z is going to be my main rotation, which in legs, the main rotation is going forward, right? So to do that, in these orient joint options, which was skeleton, orient joints, primary axis, which is the axis that's going down the bone, I'm going to say is X, which is red, right? And then the secondary axis, you can do this several different ways. You could either grab Z and tell it where to point, or you could grab Y and tell it where to point. So I'm just going to grab Y and say I need Y to be pointing forward. And forward on this character is Z to the positive, if you look at this down here in the corner. So Y to Z positive, and it's set up correctly. I'm going to hit apply. We've got non-zero rotations. So first we got to freeze the rotations. Okay, then we can orient it. And I had it orient the children and not auto orient the secondary axis because I set up the secondary axis how I wanted. So that is now oriented. And I have everything the directions that I wanted it to be. I'm going to check the next joint down. And it's clean. So clean in this case for a joint is you only want translation values on one attribute, and it's the one that is going down the joint, right? So if I bring this up, right, like the longer it is, maybe this one will make more sense. If I drag it to make the leg joint longer, you can see it's just moving the translate X. Here it's also not centered perfectly. So again, without breaking anything, I can rotate this top joint and just move it so that joint ends up in the middle of the leg, right? It's in the middle here, middle of the leg, and on the side it's in the middle. I've got a bend in my joint, and the second joint is the one that really matters, that we don't have any rotations, and we don't have any translations besides the X. So yeah, the joint orient right here, this is the bend in the leg, right? So if this was at 0, then it would be straight and it would break the IK. So I'm gonna undo that. The last joint can actually just, you can delete, you still want that first translate, but I am just going to make sure all of these are 0. And joint orient can even be 0. That'll just make it the same orientation as the parent joint, which is the second joint. All right. Now we have the joints set up how we want, with no extra, and we could double check just to make sure there's not extra. Oh, I've got some negative values here. So if you just double click in there, it's 0. Just make sure these are all 0, except for that joint orient on Z and the translate on X. This one doesn't matter as much because this is the parent joint of the whole IK system. So now I can add an IK handle by going to Skeleton, Create IK Handle, and I'm just going to make sure it's a rotate plane solver for this one because it is more than 2 joints, so I actually need it to bend, and I usually use rotate plane solvers for that. So grab the top one, then the bottom one. It created this IK handle, and now this is a clean IK chain. It should function well. To get the knee though, to set up your pull vector so that it goes straight out from the knee without having any weird popping or weird follow problems. This is how I do that. So I'm going to create a NURBS circle. Just whatever. I'm just going to rotate it. Change the size. You can make your shape whatever you want. I'm just going to do a circle, delete the history, freeze the transforms, and put that in a group. So Control G. Now I'm going to put that group in another group, Control G. So now I have group, group, and then my NURBS circle. So now this top group, I can grab that group and then the knee joint and do modify, match all transforms. And then I just leave that one there, actually. And this second one, I'm going to pull it straight out. Because now I know for a fact that that is perfectly in line with my knee joint. And so if I just hide geometry here, and I grab this and then the IK handle and do a pull vector constraint, watch this joint as I do that. Let me just make sure this is okay. So I have my pull vector. I'm gonna hit apply, and it didn't move. It's showing a fatter joint around it, but it didn't move. Sometimes if your pull vector constraint isn't perfectly lined up with that knee, then when you set up that constraint, your knee will jump a little bit. So now this is a clean IK limb. And then you just have to put this IK handle underneath whatever the foot control is that you want, and put this top joint, parent that to a hip control or something, so you can move this top joint and move this IK handle here and move this, and you won't get any weird calculations or popping. So that's how I set up IK limbs so that they don't have any weird popping or movement. That should be clean. I hope that helps, and I'll catch you in the next video.